My name is Aurelia Quinn, 26 years old. I sit in Caleb Whitaker's law office wearing the same black funeral dress I wore 3 days ago, the fabric rough against my skin as if to remind me, with every breath, what I've just lost. Sunlight stripes the mahogany table through the Venetian blinds, bars of pale gold, trapping dust motes in slow motion. The room smells faintly of leather and printer toner, an orderly scent that doesn't match the churn in my stomach. Caleb adjusts his wire-rimmed glasses and shuffles a neat stack of papers, the practiced rhythm of a man who's done this 100 times and wishes he didn't have to do it now. As the sole beneficiary of Benjamin Thomas's estate, he begins, voice gentle but firm, you inherit approximately $1.8 million in liquid assets, a majority stake in Arcadia Home and Living valued at $14.9 million, and the Craftsman estate, conservatively appraised at $2.2 million. The numbers slide past me like cold rain. Uncle Ben warned me for years that someday the business would be mine. But someday was supposed to be far away, after 1,000 more Sunday dinners and 2 more generations of azaleas blooming in the yard. Someday was not supposed to be 26, with a grief that makes my ribs feel too tight for my heart. There are some additional personal items, Caleb continues, sliding a folder closer. Your uncle's watch collection, his classic Thunderbird, and... The door swings open without a knock. For a beat, my brain supplies harmless answers. Caleb's secretary with more coffee. A courier. Then my vision tunnels. Sound drops out like a record needle lifted mid-song. A man and woman stand in the doorway, older than the last time I saw them, but unmistakable. Grant and Nadine Thomas, my parents. 16 years fold in on themselves. I'm 10 again, feet cold on tile, staring at a note propped against the sugar bowl. Uncle Ben will take care of you. Not even an I love you. 7 words that snip the cord of our family like a cheap ribbon. The coffee cup rattles against its saucer, ceramic teeth chattering in my hands. I set it down before it leaps. My heart becomes a fist pounding on a locked door. We heard about Benjamin's passing, Grant says, stepping forward, sympathy poured like warm syrup over old nails. We're so sorry for your loss, honey. Honey lands like a slap. The endearment they used when my report cards were spotless and the lawn was freshly mowed, just before the shouting started in their bedroom with the door almost, but not quite, closed. You can't be here, I hear myself say, the voice thin and shredded at the edges. You left me. You chose to leave. Nadine's perfume, white florals, expensive and careful, rolls across the table as she takes a measured step. Her face is still beautiful in that distant way a portrait can be beautiful, technically perfect, emotionally untouchable. Ms. Quinn, I asked Caleb, not taking my eyes off them, did you know they were coming? I most certainly did not. He's on his feet faster than I've ever seen him move. Mr. and Mrs. Thomas, this is a private meeting. You'll need to schedule an appointment through my office, and even then... His words blur into the buzz in my head. On the first night with Uncle Ben and Iris, there was warm soup, despite the heat, because Iris said warmth calms the body when the soul shakes. There were gentle hands braiding my hair, Uncle Ben reading Goodnight Moon, even though I was too old for it because it was on my shelf, and he was grasping for anything that looked like comfort. He tucked me in with an awkwardness that made me trust him more, not less. He kept the world from collapsing by acting as if it hadn't already. Something inside me uncoils and looks around. The abandoned child who still, unbelievably, wants and wants and wants meets the woman he raised, the one who knows a ledger from a balance sheet and a boundary from a dare. What do you want? I ask, fingers flat on the table to stop their shaking. Exactly. Grant's mouth shapes into the salesman's smile I remember from neighborhood barbecues, the smile that sold warranties neighbors didn't need and memberships they never used. We wanted to pay our respects, he says, and to see you. It's been too long. It has, I answer, surprised at the steadiness in my voice. But your timing, after the funeral, during the will reading, makes your reason clearer than your words. Nadine spreads her hands, palms up, the universal sign for harmless. Aurelia, we've been waiting to reconnect. We've made mistakes. We thought now... The right time. The phrase tastes like copper. When I'm grieving, when I'm inheriting, when you can stand in a room full of numbers and pretend this is love. Caleb clears his throat, the gentle tug of a kite string bringing me down from the sky. Perhaps we should schedule something at a later date. Ms. Quinn is still processing her loss, and there are estate matters requiring immediate attention. My parents exchanged that glance, the one that always preceded unified action. Ice cream after an argument, a trip to the zoo after a slammed door, a new laptop after a month of silent dinners. The glance that says, we're a team, and you're the game. A soft knock interrupts the standoff. Iris peeks in, silver-streaked hair coiled into its tidy bun, a small stack of tissues in one hand. Her eyes sweep the room and land on my parents. I watch her shoulders shift, spine lengthening by a fraction. Ms. Aurelia, she says, voice gentle but edged in steel. The car is ready. Grant's gaze slides over her like she's furniture, still keeping the help around, I see. Iris doesn't flinch. I've been part of this family for 16 years, Mr. Thomas. The emphasis on family is soft as cotton and sharp as glass. The word family ripples through me. For years it felt like an exam I kept failing. Uncle Ben graded on different criteria. Show up, tell the truth. Don't let fear make your choices. He never said I was perfect. He said I was worth the effort. That was the passing grade. I stand. The chair legs scrape the floor, the sound clean and decisive. I gather my purse and the folder with Uncle Ben's notes in his tidy engineer handwriting. Iris moves between me and my parents without looking like she does. We form a quiet line: lawyer, ward, guardian. Iris is family, I say to my parents, letting the words settle like dust on polished wood. You are strangers. Grant's smile tightens, the edges stitched too small for his face. Nadine's fingers tremble around the strap of her bag. I see a flicker. Regret, maybe, or just the fear of losing something they haven't yet held. It flashes across her features and vanishes. We'll be in touch, Grant says, tone shifting from soft to transactional. I'm sure you will. My voice surprises me again, so calm it sounds like someone else's, someone I might want to be. We make it to the door. Iris's hand brushes mine, a quick squeeze, a coded message. I'm here. I won't move. She's been sending me the same message since the first night, when she hummed a lullaby in the doorway until I fell asleep and kept humming after, just in case. In the hall, the air feels lighter, as if the carpet itself exhaled. Caleb closes the conference room behind us with a gentle click, then looks at me over his glasses. You did well, he says. You stayed in the room. Barely. My knees feel hollow. Somewhere a copier whirs to life, an ordinary sound that anchors me to the floor. Outside, the September sun throws warm gold across the parking lot. When the breeze lifts, it smells like cut grass and diesel, a peculiar blend of summer ending and work continuing. Iris opens the passenger door and waits until I sit before closing it, the old choreography of caretaking. As we pull away, I catch a last sliver of the office window. 2 silhouettes remain inside. My parents, framed by blinds like prison bars, heads bent together over something I can't see. Planning, counting, deciding. I close my eyes and picture Uncle Ben's hands. Oil under the nails when he tuned the Thunderbird, flour dusted on the knuckles when he made pancakes on snow days, ink stains from signing paychecks on Friday afternoons. He built a life, and then made room in it for me. He knew who they were. He also knew who I could become. The thought steadies the air in my lungs. They didn't come back for me, I say, the truth clicking into place like a latch on a gate. They came back for what I have. Beside me, Iris exhales, the kind of breath you take when the diagnosis finally has a name. Then we'll keep what Mr. Ben meant you to have, she replies, and we'll do it properly. Out the window, the city moves as if nothing in it has shifted, as if a childhood didn't just walk into a conference room wearing a disguise and ask for a second chance with a price tag. I rest my palm over the folder in my lap, feeling the crisp edge press into my skin, a line drawn. The frightened girl and the capable woman share my bones. Today, finally, the woman decides. Caleb, I say, when he calls to check on me, how soon can we meet again? I want to see everything Uncle Ben set in place, all of it. As soon as you're ready, he answers. He left more than assets, Aurelia. He left a plan. I know. I don't, not really, but the words taste right. As Iris turns onto the road that leads home, sunlight floods the windshield. The glare fades. The path ahead resolves. I don't feel safe, exactly. I feel awake. Grief sits in the seat behind me, buckled in, not driving. Fear moves to the trunk, still thumping, but muffled. Resolution climbs into the passenger seat, nods once, and points forward. Let them come with their smiles and portfolios and their sudden interest in legacy. Let them say honey like a spell. I have numbers and names and the memory of a man who showed up every single day. I have Iris and I have myself. And I have, for the first time in years, a clear understanding of the game we're playing. 3 days later, I find myself standing in Uncle Ben's kitchen, my kitchen now, watching the coffee pot burble and hiss. The smell is sharp, grounding, but it doesn't erase the tremor in my chest that hasn't left since that ambush at Caleb's office. Every car that passes outside sounds like an omen. Every knock, every ring of the phone stirs the same sick question in my stomach. Will it be them again? When the doorbell chimes, the coffee machine beeps at the same time. I don't move to pour. I already know who's there. Through the sidelight, I see them. Grant in a pressed blue shirt, Nadine in a cream cardigan, standing side by side like a catalog couple for some glossy magazine about midlife reinvention. Their faces are older, lined and softened, but the resemblance to mine is still undeniable. My father's jaw, my mother's nose, the features that should mean belonging, but only remind me of loss. I keep the door half closed, my body a barricade. You can't just show up here. My voice is flat, but my hand grips the knob so hard the metal bites. Grant gives the salesman's smile I know too well. We just want to talk, Aurelia. 5 minutes, that's all. 5 minutes. 5 minutes is long enough to gut a life. I remember Caleb's warning. Don't let them in. Don't give them space. But something stubborn in me, the 10-year-old girl who never got her questions answered, unhooks the latch. I step back. Fine. 5 minutes. They sweep inside as though invited to a dinner party, eyes scanning the rooms, the newly renovated cabinets, the Viking range Uncle Ben installed last year. Every detail cataloged, every detail assessed. I motion toward the kitchen table but stay standing by the counter. Coffee? I ask, not from hospitality, but to occupy my hands. Black, Grant answers immediately, settling into a chair like it's his by right. Your mother takes cream and sugar. I know how Iris takes her coffee, I reply coldly. I wasn't asking about her. Nadine winces, but accepts the mug when I set it down. This is a beautiful home, she murmurs, her eyes darting over the polished oak floors. Benjamin always had exquisite taste. Uncle Ben's table sits between us, the same one where he taught me algebra, balance sheets, and the habit of asking why before signing anything. Now it becomes a battlefield. Grant doesn't bother with pleasantries. He slides a leather portfolio onto the table. The thunk echoes louder than it should. We've done some research, he says, his voice low but steady. That business is worth nearly $15 million. I freeze. The bluntness, the naked greed, stings even though I expected it. Nadine opens the folder, spreading papers across the table. Valuation reports, spreadsheets, property assessments, each one neat and deliberate. We just want to understand the full picture, honey. Stop calling me honey. The words fire out sharper than I intended. Where did you get this? That's not important, Grant answers, his salesman tone slipping to something harder. What matters is that we're all on the same page. It matters to me, I snap. You've been gone 16 years. You show up 3 days after his funeral with this? Detailed financials you couldn't possibly have gathered on your own? Nadine's glance at Grant is quick but telling. He straightens, his jaw ticking once. We tried to reach out over the years, he says. For money. The realization hits like a punch. You contacted him for money. Silence. Neither of them denies it. And suddenly the gaps click into place. Uncle Ben's occasional sighs, the distant looks during holidays, his fierce insistence that I didn't need to answer the landline if it rang late at night. He was shielding me from them. Grant sighs, a sound rehearsed to sound tired rather than guilty. Your uncle painted us as villains. He never gave you the full story. You didn't need him to paint anything, I cut in. You left a note. That told the story well enough. Nadine reaches into her purse, drawing out a second folder, thinner but heavier with threat. She slides it across the table. There are things you don't understand, she says softly. Against my better judgment, I open it. Custody papers. Court documents, legal statements. My eyes snag on a figure, 13,500. What is this? My voice wavers, though the answer is already in my bones. We were in a difficult situation, Nadine whispers, eyes glistening. Benjamin offered to take full custody if you signed away your parental rights. My throat tightens, the words scraping out. For $13,000. Grant leans forward. That's not how it was. It's exactly how it was. The papers tremble in my hands. I push them back across the table as if they burn. You sold me. The kitchen falls into a silence so deep I can hear the grandfather clock ticking in the hallway, steady as Uncle Ben's voice when he read contracts aloud to me so I could practice listening for lies. I think of every birthday card that never came, every recital seat left empty, every night I fell asleep to Iris humming because no one else did. They weren't struggling parents. They were sellers, and I was the price. Nadine reaches across the table, her hand trembling. Aurelia, please. I stand, the chair legs scraping like a scream. No. My chest feels hollow, my heart somewhere else, pounding in the past. You don't get to rewrite this. Grant's face hardens, sympathy stripped away. You've built a life with what we gave up. You owe us. I stare at him, the weight of the words pressing like a boot on my ribs. Oh. The audacity of it steals my breath. Oh? I whisper. I owe you nothing. But beneath my rage, a seed of dread takes root. If they signed away their rights once, what's stopping them from trying to claw them back now that there's something to take? I don't wait for their answer. I gather the papers, shove them into the folder, and clutch it to my chest like armor. My voice is low, trembling, but final. Your 5 minutes are up. Their silence follows me down the hallway like a shadow. At the door, I pause, just long enough to hear Nadine's choked whisper. She's harder than we thought. Grant's reply is colder, sharper. Then we'll push harder. I slam the door behind me, but their voices echo long after. The folder sits on my dining table, its edges cutting against the polished wood like an open wound. I've read the documents 3 times now, hoping the words might change with each pass, but they never do. $13,500. That number won't stop screaming. It hums in the air like a swarm of flies, ugly and impossible to ignore. They didn't just leave me, they sold me. The thought rattles in my chest as I pace the length of the room. My bare feet make small sounds against the hardwood, an uneven metronome for my spiraling thoughts. Uncle Ben knew. He had to have known. All those years he deflected questions about why my parents left, his carefully chosen words, his insistence that they made decisions they thought were best. He'd been protecting me from the ugliest truth. And now they've dropped it on me like a grenade. The phone buzzes. Iris? Miss Aurelia, she says, her voice low. Are you all right? You didn't answer the door when I came by earlier. I swallow hard, trying to keep my tone even. They were here, again. A pause, then sharper. What did they want? They wanted me to know the price they put on me. My voice breaks, jagged as glass. 13,500. There's no sound on the line for a beat, just Iris's breath. Then, quietly, that's more than they ever spent on you when you lived with them. Her voice is bitter in a way I've rarely heard. You were worth more than their house payment. The truth of it pierces deeper than I want it to. I sink into a chair, clutching the folder as if it might anchor me. What am I supposed to do, Iris? They're not asking for forgiveness. They're demanding repayment. You do nothing tonight, she replies firmly. You sleep. Tomorrow we'll speak with Caleb. This isn't yours to carry alone. Her words are steady, but I can't help picturing my parents' faces, the cold certainty in Grant's, the fragile tremor in Nadine's. Not remorse, not even shame, just calculation. And that's when I realize the truth. They're desperate. The next morning, desperation has a voice. They return. No coffee this time, no polite entry, just a knock so sharp it shakes the frame. When I open the door, Grant doesn't wait for an invitation. He steps inside with the blunt confidence of someone who believes ownership is a birthright. Nadine trails behind, her cardigan buttoned wrong, her eyes rimmed with red. We need to talk, Grant says, the edges of his words sharper now. I fold my arms. You had your chance. We didn't tell you everything. Nadine's voice trembles, but not from guilt, from fear. She drops a stack of envelopes on the table, each one stamped with red ink. Final notice. Collection pending. Medical bill. Credit card debt. Grant doesn't flinch. I owe $85,000 to men who don't take excuses. Nadine's been in treatment. The bills are crushing us. We need help, and you're the only one who can give it. The gall of it makes me laugh, though it comes out hollow. You abandoned me. You sold me. And now you want me to bail you out? We had no choice. Nadine's voice cracks, finally raw. Do you think it was easy to sign those papers? Do you think I slept a single night after? We were drowning. Benjamin offered us a lifeline, and we took it. You didn't just take it, I spit back. You traded me for it. Grant slams his hand against the table, the sound startling. Enough. You think you'd be sitting here, in this house, with that business, without us making that decision? You owe us everything. The words are fire on gasoline. My blood roars. I owe you nothing. The kitchen feels smaller, air sharp, tension thick enough to choke. My hands shake, but my voice doesn't falter this time. If you're in debt, that's your problem. Don't lay it at my feet like I asked for any of this. Grant leans forward, his face inches from mine, the smell of stale coffee and bitterness clinging to him. Then we'll take it. The threat hangs in the air. Nadine gasps softly, as if he's crossed a line even she hadn't expected. Before I can react, the back door opens. Iris steps in, a grocery bag balanced on one hip, her eyes flicking instantly from me to them. She sets the bag down with deliberate calm. You've said enough. Grant sneers. This is family business. No, Iris replies, her voice low but resolute. Family is who stays. Family is who shows up when it costs them something. That's why I'm here, and why you have no right. For a moment, the kitchen is silent, except for the hum of the refrigerator. Grant glares at her, jaw working. Nadine looks away, shame flashing across her face before she masks it. Iris steps closer, positioning herself between us without hesitation. Her hand hovers just near mine, not touching, but close enough to steady me. You should leave, she says quietly. Now. Grant stares at her, then at me, his nostrils flaring. This isn't over. Nadine whispers, almost pleading. Please, Aurelia, think about it. We're your parents. The word parents scrapes through me like sandpaper. My voice is steady, though my heart pounds. No, you are sellers. Don't confuse the two. I open the door. This time they leave. When the door clicks shut, the silence is deafening. I press my palms against the table, breath shuddering, body trembling like a wire pulled too tight. Iris places a carton of eggs on the counter as if nothing happened, then looks at me with eyes that are both stern and kind. They'll push harder, she warns. I know. Her hand rests briefly on my shoulder, anchoring me. Then we'll push back harder. I look at the folder, the bills, the threats. My parents have nothing left to lose, which makes them dangerous. But I have something worth protecting. Everything Uncle Ben built, and everything Iris has given me. And in that moment, I know, this isn't about grief anymore. It's about war. Monday morning arrives too quickly. The September air is crisp, sunlight bright but brittle, as if even the weather knows this is a fragile day. I walk into Caleb Whitaker's law office, clutching a leather portfolio to my chest like a shield. It isn't just grief that weighs me down anymore. It's anger, fear, and something sharper than both, determination. Caleb's conference room has transformed since the last time I sat here. Stacks of manila folders line the polished table, each labeled in Uncle Ben's meticulous handwriting. His presence lingers in the ink, the order, the sheer thoroughness. My throat tightens. He knew. He prepared for this. Caleb adjusts his glasses and gestures to the seat across from him. Your uncle was nothing if not thorough, he says. He left you more than assets. He left you armor. He slides a folder toward me. My fingers tingle as I flip it open. Inside are investigator reports, photographs, and transcripts. The first page alone makes my stomach drop. 2019. Surveillance photo. Grant Thomas loitering outside Arcadia Home and Living's flagship store. His face is older but unmistakable, caught mid-cigarette, eyes narrowed like a man waiting for prey. My breath hitches. Caleb doesn't soften the blow. He hired a private investigator to document every contact attempt, every voicemail, every letter. I turn the pages, photographs of my father lurking in parking lots, handwritten notes about calls demanding money, $5,000 here, $75,000 there, transcripts of conversations Uncle Ben never told me about, threats couched in brotherly concern. Play the audio, Caleb says quietly, tapping his keyboard. Grant's voice fills the room, tinny but cutting. Listen, Benjamin, you've got the money. If you don't help your own brother, I'll cause problems for that precious business. The girl doesn't need to know about this conversation. The words hit me like cold water down my spine. My stomach clenches, bile burning at the back of my throat. Play it again. Caleb obliges. This time I focus on the background noises. Clinking glasses, muffled conversations, the scrape of a chair. That sounds like Charlie's Tavern, I whisper. Uncle Ben never went there. They must have cornered him. Caleb nods grimly. He kept records not because he doubted you, Aurelia, but because he knew they'd come after you eventually. He wanted you prepared. I flip through more. Medical letters from Nadine, each one more desperate than the last, claiming hospital bills, conditions, treatments. Beside each, Uncle Ben's careful notes, investigated, false, no record of admission, exaggerated for financial gain. My chest tightens. He was carrying all of this alone, shielding me from a storm he knew would eventually reach my door. The guilt is sharp and unexpected. He should have told me. He wanted to protect you, Caleb says gently, but now that protection passes to you. Another folder lands before me. This one heavier, stamped with legal seals. A restraining order, granted in 2021. The judge's language is damning. Repeated pattern of financial exploitation attempts and deliberate emotional manipulation. The words blur as tears sting my eyes. He wasn't just protecting his business. He was protecting me. Every Sunday dinner, every surprise gift, every gentle word of encouragement, those weren't just love, they were shields. I close the folder slowly, pressing my palm against its cover as if I can feel the weight of Uncle Ben's choices through the paper. My grief sharpens into resolve. They've been planning this. They've been watching obituary notices, waiting for the perfect moment. Yes, Caleb says, and he knew they would. That's why he documented everything, so you wouldn't be blindsided. I stare at the stack of folders, the arsenal of evidence Uncle Ben left behind. It feels overwhelming, but it also feels like power, real power, proof that what I've lived through isn't just emotion, it's fact, it's record. I inhale deeply. The fear in my chest loosens, just slightly. I don't want to hide anymore. I want to confront them. Caleb raises an eyebrow. Are you sure that's wise? They expect me to cower, to retreat. If I let them dictate the terms now, they'll never stop. I need to show them I'm not that little girl they abandoned. The thought alone steadies my breathing. I picture Uncle Ben's steady hands, Iris's soft humming, the feeling of being chosen after being discarded. I owe them strength. Caleb leans back, studying me with a mix of caution and respect. Then choose the battlefield wisely. Public space, witnesses, somewhere they can't twist the narrative. The seed of a plan takes root. Arcadia. The showroom floor. Uncle Ben's pride, his legacy, the space where he taught me everything about quality, persistence, and presentation. If they want to see me, they'll see me there, surrounded by his life's work, surrounded by proof that his trust in me was not misplaced. I close the final folder, the decision solidifying in my chest. My voice no longer shakes. If they want war, I'll give them one, but it will be on my terms. Caleb's eyes narrow, but he nods slowly. Then let's prepare. The fluorescent lights above hum steadily, as though even the building approves. I gather the folders, the files, the recordings. For the first time since Uncle Ben's death, I don't feel like prey waiting for the next ambush. I feel like a soldier stepping onto the field, carrying the weapon someone else sharpened for me. Outside, the city moves with its usual rhythm, cars streaming, people laughing, the world unaware of the storm gathering inside my life. I clutch the folders to my chest and walk into the sunlight, a single thought burning like a brand. They may have sold me once, but they will never take me again. Arcadia's showroom gleams like a cathedral of craftsmanship. Sunlight spills through floor-to-ceiling windows, catching on polished oak tables and velvet armchairs arranged with meticulous precision. Uncle Ben poured his life into this space, insisting every piece tell a story of quality and permanence. Today, it will tell another story, mine. I stand at the center of the main floor, my fingers resting on an antique desk Uncle Ben restored himself. Its smooth surface steadies me, grounding me in his legacy. My pulse hammers, but not from fear alone, from the anticipation of confrontation. This is the battleground I chose. The glass doors swing open. Grant and Nadine step inside, their entrance as rehearsed as everything they've ever done. Grant in a charcoal suit, shoulders back, radiating authority he no longer deserves. Nadine in a cream dress, her expression carefully curated to appear softer, maternal. Customers glance up from browsing, curious at the couple's brisk, purposeful walk. I straighten my spine, voice carrying just enough to draw attention without seeming theatrical. Thank you for coming. I wanted to meet here, in the business Uncle Ben built, the one he trusted me to protect. Grant's smile flickers, but he recovers quickly. We're glad you called, honey. It means you're ready to listen. I don't let him control the tempo. I've been listening to Uncle Ben's files, to court records, to restraining orders. I slide a photocopied document from my portfolio and place it on the desk, angled so nearby customers can see. He left me everything. He also left proof of your harassment, of your attempts to extort him, of the day you signed away your rights for $13,500. Nadine's face pales, her hand fluttering to her chest. Grant's jaw tightens, but his voice stays smooth. You don't understand the context. We were desperate. I understand perfectly. My tone slices through his excuses. You traded me for cash, and now you've come back for a second sale. A hush spreads across the showroom. Employees drift closer, pretending to tidy displays, their eyes fixed on us. A middle-aged couple pauses by a dining set, their interest shifting from chairs to confrontation. Nadine steps forward, tears welling. Aurelia, please, we're your parents. We made mistakes, but we're trying to make it right. Make it right? I laugh, a sound too sharp to be amusement. By demanding money again? By threatening to contest the will? By circling my home like vultures? Grant's mask slips, his voice hardening. Family helps family. You wouldn't be here without us. I take a step closer, my voice low, but carrying. Family doesn't abandon a 10-year-old with nothing but a note. Family doesn't sell their child for debt relief. Family doesn't wait 16 years to reappear at a funeral with a portfolio of financial statements. A ripple of murmurs passes through the room. The couple by the dining set exchange glances. One of my employees, Sarah, positions herself closer, arms crossed, protective. Grant glances around, realizing the audience he's underestimated. He leans in, lowering his voice. This isn't the place. Exactly, I raise mine. This isn't the place for your lies, your manipulation, or your greed. This is Arcadia. This is Uncle Ben's legacy, and you are not welcome here. For the first time, Nadine falters visibly. Her lips part as if to argue, but no words come. Grant grabs her elbow, forcing composure back onto both of them. He turns to me with a look meant to intimidate but diluted by the eyes watching. We'll be in touch. You'll regret humiliating us like this. Maybe, I reply evenly, but I'll never regret telling the truth. They walk out under the weight of a dozen curious stares. The automatic doors close behind them with a hiss that sounds like relief. I don't move. My hands tremble against the antique desk, adrenaline draining. Then Sarah approaches, her voice low but firm. You did the right thing. He would have been proud. The middle-aged woman who witnessed everything nods. That took courage, young lady. Their support washes over me, warm and unexpected. For the first time in weeks, I feel less alone. Yet even as reassurance surrounds me, Grant's parting words echo in my head. You'll regret humiliating us. I know them too well to believe this was their retreat. No, this was only the beginning. 3 days have passed since the confrontation at Arcadia, 3 days of replaying every detail. Grant's tightening jaw, Nadine's pale silence, the whispers of strangers witnessing the truth. It should feel like victory, but it doesn't. The memory of Grant's warning, you'll regret humiliating us, has rooted itself deep, and each hour that passes without their return feels less like peace and more like the pause before a storm. Caleb's office no longer resembles a law firm. It looks like a war room. Manila folders spread across the mahogany table, yellow legal pads stacked in precise towers, my own notes scribbled furiously in the margins of contracts and financial statements. Even Iris has contributed, her careful handwriting filling pages of observations about every strange car parked near the estate in recent weeks. Caleb clears his throat, sliding a fresh folder toward me. Your parents have retained counsel. My stomach tightens. Who? He hesitates as though bracing me for impact. Martin Keene. The name lands like a stone in my gut. Uncle Ben's old adversary? The one who tried to sue Arcadia over the supplier dispute in 2018? The very same. Caleb's mouth presses into a thin line. He knows the vulnerabilities in your company's legal structure better than anyone. They chose him deliberately. The weight of it sinks into my chest. My parents aren't just flailing in desperation, they're strategizing. They've aligned themselves with someone who already mapped the cracks in Arcadia's foundation. I lean back, pressing my palms against the cool table. They're smarter than I gave them credit for. They're also more desperate than you realize. Caleb adjusts his glasses. Keene doesn't come cheap. Someone funded this. Nadine's stack of debt notices flashes in my mind. Creditors, collectors, maybe even worse. They're gambling with money they don't have. Exactly, Caleb says, which means they're all in. That makes them dangerous. The room feels smaller, air heavy with the scent of old paper and the tension of looming battle. I glance at the stacks of evidence Uncle Ben left. Investigator reports, restraining orders, transcripts of threats. They're my arsenal, but suddenly they don't feel like enough. We need to prepare as if this is more than legal, I say quietly, as if they'll use everything: law, money, manipulation, even public opinion. Iris, seated at the far end of the table, finally speaks. They already are. She slides a small notebook across to me. Inside are dates, times, and descriptions in her looping script. I've kept track of cars slowing near the estate, men loitering outside the store. They're watching, Aurelia. The hairs on my arms rise. They're casing us. Caleb exhales slowly. Then we document everything. Every drive-by, every strange visitor, every question they ask of our staff. The plan steadies me. Uncle Ben always preached, preparation beats panic. I flip open a fresh page of my legal pad, pen scratching hard enough to dent the paper. We need layers of defense: legal, financial, personal. Caleb nods approvingly. I'll begin drafting cease and desist letters. Even if they ignore them, it builds a pattern of harassment. And the company, I ask? What if they dig into Arcadia's operations? Try to claim mismanagement? Then we counter with audits, he says. I've already engaged an independent firm. Every number will be airtight. The rhythm of strategy calms the chaos in my chest. For the first time, I feel like I'm not just reacting, I'm building a wall. But then Iris shifts uncomfortably, her fingers twisting the edge of her cardigan. There's something else, she says softly. I look at her, sensing the tremor in her voice. What is it? She hesitates, then slides another document forward. I found this in Mr. Ben's will. I hadn't noticed it before. He named me as the backup executor in case anything happened to you. The revelation slams into me. Of course Uncle Ben trusted her. Iris has been the quiet backbone of this family for 16 years, but the implication is chilling. If my parents dig deep enough, they'll see her name. They'll know she has authority if I falter. Caleb frowns. It does put her at risk. They could argue undue influence, claim she manipulated Ben's decisions. Cold dread coils in my stomach. My parents aren't just threatening my inheritance. They could target Iris. I push back from the table, pacing. Then we expand our strategy. We don't just protect Arcadia, we protect Iris too. She shakes her head. I don't want to be trouble. You're not trouble. My voice sharpens with conviction. You're family, and we protect family. The words hang in the air, solidifying into something I didn't know I needed to say. The little girl they sold may have been alone, but the woman I've become is not. For the next 2 hours, we adapt. Caleb drafts affidavits from employees affirming Iris's professional relationship with Uncle Ben. I dig out employee reviews praising her performance. Each document becomes another brick in the wall we're building. As the sun sets, the conference room glows in orange light. Papers scattered like maps of a war we're just beginning to fight. My exhaustion feels less like defeat and more like fuel. Uncle Ben prepared for this. Iris stands with me. Caleb strategizes beside me. Grant and Nadine may have Keene, but I have an army too. I glance at Uncle Ben's handwriting on one of the folders. Steady, confident, unshaken. My pulse steadies to match it. They think I'm still that abandoned 10-year-old, I murmur. But they're about to meet the woman Uncle Ben raised. The certified letter arrives the following Wednesday morning, its official stamp glaring from the kitchen counter like a brand. Iris sets it down carefully, as though afraid it might detonate. My hands tremble as I tear it open, paper rasping against paper, and the words leap out at me in bold print. Petition to contest the will of Benjamin Thomas. For a moment, the world tilts. My vision narrows to the dense legal language. They're claiming Uncle Ben was not of sound mind when he amended his will. They want a temporary injunction to freeze all assets, including the business, until the court decides. My throat constricts. They aren't nibbling around the edges anymore. They're going straight for the heart. They're contesting, Iris whispers, her spoon clattering against her coffee cup. After everything? Not just contesting, I say, my voice flat. They're trying to shut down Arcadia until they win. The words taste like acid. This isn't just about inheritance anymore. It's about dismantling everything Uncle Ben built, everything he entrusted to me. Caleb's voice on the phone is grim. They've filed strategically in front of Judge Harmon. She's cautious with estate transfers. It's a clever move. How much time do we have? I ask, pacing across the kitchen floor. 48 hours. Emergency hearing is Friday morning. 48 hours. 2 days to defend an empire. The weight of it presses into my chest, heavy and suffocating. I picture Uncle Ben's study, the walls lined with shelves of journals, his legacy bound in leather and ink. If I lose all of it, his house, his company, his foundation for me becomes theirs, my parents, the very people he fought to protect me from. Iris grips my hand, her palm warm against my cold fingers. He prepared you for this. We'll face it together. But even as she says it, the doorbell rings. Through the window, I see the unmistakable blue of a news van. A reporter stands on my porch, microphone poised. My stomach drops. When I open the door, she greets me with a professional smile. Miss Quinn, Catherine Ward, Cairo News. Would you comment on your parents' concerns about your ability to manage such a substantial business during this time of grief? They've gone public. No comment, I say sharply, slamming the door. My phone buzzes immediately. A text from Sarah at the Bellevue store. Reporters here asking employees about you. What should we say? Another from our operations manager. 2 customers canceled orders. Said they heard Arcadia might change ownership. The realization hits like ice water. This isn't just a legal fight. It's a public relations war. My parents have framed themselves as concerned guardians of Benjamin's legacy, painting me as the unstable heir. And it's working. I turn to Iris, my voice shaking but fierce. They're undermining customer confidence. If Arcadia looks unstable, the business will collapse before the court even decides. That's despicable, she whispers. They're twisting grief into a weapon. It's calculated, I say bitterly. And it's effective. The next 4 hours blur into strategy calls with Caleb, frantic coordination with managers, and the steady stream of bad news. A supplier delays shipment. A longtime client hesitates on a contract renewal. Doubt spreads faster than truth. But we don't fold. Caleb's paralegal delivers thick folders of ammunition. Adoption papers. Uncle Ben drafted but never filed. Records of restraining orders. Transcripts of threatening calls. Store managers compile employee testimonials, affirming my leadership. Every document, every voice becomes a shield. By evening, my dining room looks like a battlefield. Legal briefs cover the table. Phones buzz endlessly. Iris paces, her handkerchief twisting in her fingers. For the first time, fear etches lines in her calm face. Do you think we can win? I ask quietly. The question slips out, raw and unguarded. She stops pacing, looks at me with eyes that have seen me through every stage of this war. They've been planning this for years. But Benjamin planned longer. He knew who they were. He prepared for this moment. And so have you. Her conviction steadies me. Then my phone rings. Caleb's voice is tight. They've moved the timeline. Judge Harmon agreed to an emergency consideration. The hearing is tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock. My heart pounds, less than 12 hours. They're trying to catch us unprepared, Iris says, already gathering the most critical documents. They won't. My voice hardens. Call everyone. Bring everything we have, finished or not. We'll work through the night. I walk into Uncle Ben's study and stand before his portrait. His eyes, kind but steady, look down on me, as though daring me to falter. My hands tremble, but I speak anyway. I won't let them take what you built, I whisper. I promise. The grandfather clock in the hallway chimes once, marking the first hour of what will be the longest night of my life. By sunrise, we'll either be ready to fight or ready to lose everything. The courthouse smells faintly of varnished wood and nerves. I sit rigidly on the oak bench, my black blazer buttoned tight like armor. The clock above the paneled wall reads 9:30 a.m. My palms are damp despite the chill of the air conditioning. Beside me, Iris twists the corner of her handkerchief with steady, nervous fingers. Across the aisle, my parents sit side by side, masks of composure firmly in place. Grant wears a tailored charcoal suit, his jaw clean-shaven, his silver hair smoothed back to suggest gravitas. Nadine has chosen a conservative navy dress, her hair pinned in a bun that makes her look like a Sunday school teacher, instead of the woman who once traded me for $13,500. Their attorney, Martin Keene, sits between them. His reputation precedes him: sharp, polished, ruthless. He once dragged Arcadia through a grueling contract dispute, and now he's turned his sights on me. All rise, the bailiff commands. The Honorable Judge Eleanor Richardson sweeps in, silver hair pulled back, her glasses perched low on her nose. She radiates control, her gaze slicing through the courtroom as she settles behind the bench. Be seated. Keene rises smoothly, buttoning his jacket. Your Honor, we represent Grant and Nadine Thomas, the biological parents of Aurelia Quinn, and we bring before you grave concerns regarding the disposition of Benjamin Thomas's estate. Biological parents. The phrasing needles me. It's deliberate. To remind the judge that blood is thicker than the years they abandoned me. My fists curl under the table. Caleb catches the movement and shakes his head subtly. Patience. Timing. Keene continues, his voice carrying the cadence of a well-rehearsed performance. Mr. Thomas's death was sudden. He suffered from hypertension and cardiac events in his final year. During this period of vulnerability, Miss Quinn, who lived with him and depended on him financially, had undue influence over his decisions. We ask for a temporary injunction freezing the estate until a full inquiry can determine the validity of his will. The accusation hangs in the air like smoke. My stomach knots, but I force my face into stillness. Grant leans forward, playing his part, his voice low and heavy with false sincerity. We only want what's best for our daughter and for my brother's legacy. If Ben wasn't thinking clearly at the end, we have a duty to protect what he built. Daughter. The word tastes rotten coming from his mouth. Judge Richardson's gaze shifts to Caleb. Mr. Whitaker, your response? Caleb rises slowly, unhurried, every movement deliberate. Uncle Ben always said Caleb had courtroom timing like a Broadway actor. Today, I understand what he meant. What we have here, Your Honor, Caleb begins, is not a case of undue influence. It is a calculated attempt at harassment disguised as concern. He lifts a binder, heavy enough to make the table creak. I have been Benjamin Thomas's attorney for over 30 years. His will has remained consistent since Miss Quinn was 12 years old, 2 years after her parents legally abandoned her. The word abandoned detonates in the room. A ripple of murmurs spreads through the gallery. My parents sit motionless, though Nadine's knuckles whiten around her purse strap. Caleb slides documents forward. Here are notarized records from 2009. Grant and Nadine Thomas signed away their parental rights to Benjamin Thomas in exchange for $13,500. They have had no meaningful contact with their daughter since, until 3 days after Benjamin's death, when she inherited everything. Judge Richardson adjusts her glasses, scanning the papers. Mr. Keene, were you aware of this legal relinquishment? For the first time, Keene falters. His confident smile dips, but he recovers. My clients admit they made mistakes. People change. Their concern now is genuine. Caleb doesn't give him space. Genuine? Then how do you explain the restraining order granted in 2021 after repeated attempts by Grant and Nadine Thomas to extort money from Benjamin? Another file lands on the judge's bench. The whispers in the gallery rise again. Caleb signals to the clerk. A small speaker crackles to life, filling the room with Grant's recorded voice. Ben, you've got $15 million tied up in that business. What's $50,000 to you? If you don't help me, I'll cause problems for that precious company. Aurelia doesn't need to know. My father stares straight ahead, jaw tight, face reddening. Nadine lowers her eyes. This was recorded 14 months ago, Caleb says smoothly, when Mr. Thomas was in perfect health. He documented everything, because he feared this very day. Judge Richardson turns to Iris. Miss Pruitt, you were in Mr. Thomas's household for 16 years, correct? Iris rises, her hands steady despite the tremor in her lips. Yes, Your Honor. I cared for the home and helped raise Aurelia after her parents left. And what was Benjamin Thomas's mental state in his final months? Clear as a bell, Iris says firmly. He ran the business daily. Reviewed financials with Aurelia every Friday. He could recite inventory numbers from memory. He was planning the spring collection the day before he passed. Her voice cracks slightly when she adds, "He loved her like his own daughter. He told me often that she had better instincts than he did." The words strike me harder than any gavel could. I bite the inside of my cheek, fighting tears. 3 store managers testify next, describing how Ben praised my contributions, how he relied on me for strategic decisions. Each word strengthens the wall we're building. By the time Caleb rests his case, Keene looks rattled. My parents whisper frantically to him, but Judge Richardson silences them with a raised hand. She removes her glasses, her gaze sharp as steel. "I've heard enough. The request for injunctive relief is denied." Relief surges through me like warm water, but she isn't finished. Furthermore, by filing this petition, Mr. and Mrs. Thomas have triggered the no contest clause of the will. They forfeit any potential claim they might have had. Additionally, I find their actions consistent with harassment. I am issuing a restraining order prohibiting them from coming within 1,000 feet of Miss Quinn, her residence, or any Arcadia property. Gasps ripple through the gallery. Nadine's eyes fill with tears, but not the kind that heal. Grant flushes red, a vein throbbing at his temple. "This is outrageous," he mutters, half rising, but Keene grips his arm, forcing him back down. Judge Richardson bangs her gavel. "This case is dismissed." The sound echoes like a final door slamming shut. Iris grips my hand so tightly it nearly hurts, but I don't pull away. Around us, strangers nod approvingly, murmuring about justice. Caleb gathers the files with calm satisfaction, his voice low. "It's over. They have no recourse left." But as I watch my parents sign the restraining order paperwork with trembling hands, I know Caleb is wrong. For people who have nothing left to lose, there's always another move. The gavel's echo still rings in my head days after the hearing, but instead of peace, it leaves behind an unease that gnaws at me like termites in old wood. On paper, we won. The will stands. The assets are secure. My parents are restrained from coming near me or Arcadia. But when I close my eyes at night, I still see the way Grant's jaw clenched as the judge delivered her ruling. The way Nadine's eyes darted, not with defeat, but with calculation. Iris notices the tension in me as we sit in Uncle Ben's, my, kitchen. She places a teacup before me, her hands as steady as her gaze. "Don't let them haunt the victory, Aurelia," she says softly. "Ben prepared you for this moment, and you've honored him." I want to believe her, but my phone buzzes, shattering the fragile calm. It's Sarah from the flagship store. Reporters came again, asking if Arcadia is changing leadership. Customers overheard. Some walked out. My stomach twists. I call her immediately. "What did you tell them?" "The truth," she answers, "that the company is stable, that you're leading it. But Aurelia, they looked skeptical, like they'd already chosen a side." My pulse quickens. This isn't about courtrooms anymore. My parents are fighting in the court of public opinion. The next blow comes the following morning. 2 suppliers delay shipments, citing concerns about stability. An email pings from a client canceling a large order, saying they can't risk potential ownership disputes. It's as if Grant and Nadine have cast a shadow over everything, convincing the world to doubt me. At a staff meeting that evening, I stand at the head of the long conference table, looking at the faces of managers who once looked only to Uncle Ben for guidance. Now they look at me, waiting, weighing. "They're trying to scare us," I say, forcing steel into my voice, trying to make us falter. But Arcadia doesn't stand on their words. It stands on ours, on Uncle Ben's vision, on our commitment to excellence, and on the trust of our customers. That doesn't vanish because of whispers. A silence hangs heavy. Then Sarah speaks, her voice steady. "We believe in you, Aurelia. He believed in you. That's enough for me." Others nod. The tension in my chest eases slightly. For the first time, I see it. Not just employees, but allies. My army. But outside the walls of Arcadia, the smear campaign spreads. The Seattle Tribune runs a headline 2 days later. "Heir or pawn? Questions surround Arcadia's future." The article drips with insinuation, quoting anonymous family sources who question my ability to lead. There's no doubt who those sources are. When Iris shows me the paper, I nearly tear it in half. They're painting me as a child who manipulated a dying man. She presses her hand over mine. "And what do you do with lies, Aurelia?" "Expose them," I say bitterly. Caleb calls that afternoon. "We can't silence the press, but we can drown them out." I suggest public proof, testimonials, evidence of Benjamin's clarity, of your leadership. If they're trying to sway the crowd, we fight with truth. The next week becomes a blur of cameras and microphones. Employees volunteer statements about my work. Clients send letters praising Arcadia's reliability. Even Uncle Ben's doctor records a video confirming his mental clarity until the very end. Piece by piece, we stitch together a counter-narrative. Still, the strain shows. One night, I find Iris in the kitchen, staring out the window, her handkerchief clenched tight. "They're relentless," she whispers. "Grant and Nadine. They won't stop until they've bled you dry, or broken you." Her fear sparks something in me. I straighten. Then we don't just defend. We build. We grow louder. We prove that Arcadia is stronger with me at the helm than it ever was before. The next morning, I call a press conference. My voice trembles at first as I stand behind the podium, but when I speak of Uncle Ben, his vision, his trust in me, the tremor vanishes. I announce expansion plans Uncle Ben and I drafted months before his death, unveiling a new Tacoma store. I speak not as a frightened heir, but as a leader. The cameras flash, the reporters scribble, and for the first time since this nightmare began, I see headlines the next day that don't question me. They quote me. Arcadia to expand despite family dispute. It doesn't erase the scars. My parents' betrayal has already left cracks in me, cracks no restraining order or press release can fill. But as I walk the showroom that weekend, customers browsing, employees smiling, I realize something important. Cracks don't always destroy. Sometimes they let the light in. I stop before the antique desk again, the same one where I stood when I first confronted them. My reflection gleams in its polished surface, not the trembling girl they tried to break, but the woman Uncle Ben raised to stand her ground. Grant and Nadine may still be out there, seething in their silence, plotting their next move. But here, in this place, surrounded by proof of what we've built, I know one thing with absolute clarity. I am not afraid of them anymore. 6 months later, I stand at a podium in a ballroom filled with the hum of conversation and the clink of silverware. Crystal chandeliers scatter light across polished floors, illuminating 300 of the city's most influential business leaders. The Seattle Business Journal's annual awards ceremony buzzes with quiet anticipation. On the stage beside me gleams the Crystal Community Leadership Award. It is mine, Arcadia's, Uncle Ben's. "My name is Aurelia Quinn," I say into the microphone, my voice steady where it once trembled. "And tonight, I stand here not because of what I inherited, but because of what I learned." Arcadia Home and Living was built on a simple principle: quality matters, in our products, in our service, and most importantly, in our relationships. The audience leans in. Some nod, others smile. I see familiar faces: Sarah in the front row, Caleb adjusting his glasses with pride, Iris beaming, her silver-streaked hair styled elegantly for the occasion. My chosen family, my true anchors. Uncle Ben's absence aches, but tonight it feels less like a wound and more like a legacy stitched into my skin. The memory of those chaotic days after his death feels distant now. The courtroom battles, the smear campaigns, the sleepless nights, they are scars, but scars are proof of survival. I continue. When Arcadia opens our new Tacoma location next month, we'll bring the same commitment to excellence that my uncle instilled in me, because Arcadia isn't just a business, it's a promise. Applause ripples through the room. I catch Iris dabbing at her eyes, and Caleb giving me the smallest nod, the kind Uncle Ben used to give when I'd solved a problem without his help. The months after the trial were not easy. My parents vanished within 48 hours of losing in court, but not before leaving behind a wake of damage. Their whispers lingered for weeks, turning into headlines, into gossip, into questions. But we countered each one with proof, with action, with steady leadership. Arcadia not only survived, it grew. Revenue climbed, employee satisfaction reached record levels, and customers returned with renewed trust. What I didn't expect was how healing that growth would be. For the first time, sleep comes easily. Morning coffee on the porch feels like a celebration instead of a waiting game. The estate is no longer a fortress under siege, but a home filled with light and plans for the future. The most meaningful creation of all is the Benjamin Thomas Foundation. I announced it weeks ago. and tonight I speak of it again. Our mission is simple, I tell the crowd, to support those rebuilding lives after family betrayal, because sometimes the family that matters most is the one you choose. In the audience, a young woman named Margaret Wilson, our newest store manager, claps vigorously. I remember her trembling in my office weeks earlier, confessing that her brother pressured her to leak our product line to competitors. I had seen my younger self in her, the girl cornered by impossible family choices. That day, I promised her Arcadia's protection. Caleb drafted a cease and desist letter. Iris took her for coffee. The foundation covered her legal fees. Tonight, she smiles at me with gratitude that glows brighter than any award. After the ceremony, Caleb hands me a champagne flute. His expression is thoughtful. Ben would be proud. You've turned every attack into strength. He prepared me for this, I reply softly. I just didn't know it at the time. Later, back at the estate, I slip off my heels and walk into Uncle Ben's old study. My study now. Expansion plans for Arcadia's third location spread across the desk, sketches and figures glowing under the lamplight. Where once these papers would have overwhelmed me, now they energize me. I see not obstacles, but opportunities. On the wall, Uncle Ben's portrait watches. His kind eyes seem to approve. I touch the watch on my wrist, the one he wore every day of my childhood, and feel its steady tick against my skin, a rhythm that has become my own. The phone rings. It's the Foundation's first scholarship recipient, her voice bubbling with joy as she tells me she's completed her business degree. Tears blur my vision as I congratulate her. Another life rebuilt, another circle completed. After I hang up, I stand before the window, watching the garden Iris tends with the same devotion Uncle Ben once gave. The night air carries the scent of blooming azaleas. My reflection stares back at me, no longer the abandoned girl or the trembling heir, but the woman Uncle Ben always believed I could be. Family isn't blood. It isn't signatures on paper. Family is who shows up, day after day, who chooses you when others don't. Uncle Ben and Iris chose me before I could choose myself. Now I honor that choice by choosing others, by protecting what matters, by leading with the strength born from pain. I whisper into the night, as if he might hear me still. I won't forget, and I won't fail. For the first time since he died, I believe it completely.